I've asked Denise Van Wyk to read the scripture this morning. So I'd ask you to stand as we read the Word of God. We're in Mark chapter 9. We've been preaching through the whole book of Mark, and we're up to chapter 9, verse 30. Denise, so grateful for you.
They left that place and passed through Galilee. Jesus did not want anyone to know where they were because he was teaching his disciples. He said to them, "The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of men. They will kill him, and after 3 days he will rise." But they did not understand what he meant and were afraid to ask him about it. They came to Capernaum. When he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the road?" But they kept quiet, because on the way they had argued about who was the greatest. Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, "If anyone wants to be first, he must be the very last and the servant of all." He took a little child and had him stand among them. Taking him in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me." This is the reading of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Thank you. You may be seated. There's an outline in your bulletin that you can use to follow along as we work through this passage this morning. I've listed on your outline a little reflection question, and that is, what has foot washing service looked like in your own life? And when have you felt closest to God through serving? So, think about that for a minute. In one area of the church, we ask for people to serve. And, I always look at the church, it's a family. And, my family at home, when my kids are growing up, we need people to take out the trash, and we need people to make their beds and clean up their rooms and do laundry. There's just certain things that you do because we're family. And that takes place in the church. So grateful that we got people who make coffee and set out cookies and that are here during the week. Yesterday we had a crew that came in and helped serve a lunch for a funeral. So grateful for all of that. That is most certainly service. But then there's more service to that. And maybe I'd call that graduate level service. There's service that takes us to places that honestly probably make us feel uncomfortable. And if you reflect on this for your own life, have you had those places? For me, I think of times on Skid Row, made me feel uncomfortable. Wouldn't be my preference to go there in Los Angeles. Very dirty place. Oftentimes, even as we serve, people were anything but grateful. But that's where we felt that the Lord was leading us. Remember going on house builds in Mexico. And again, I got to tell you, I'm a wimp when it comes to a few standards of living. I love flush toilets. Okay, I'm just being honest with you, but I've just come used to flush toilets, and when I go to a place where that's not there, I'm a little bit uncomfortable right away. And I remember going on those house builds and looking at that outhouse at the top of the hill, saying, "Lord, can I make it the whole day?" They make me feel uncomfortable. And God particularly takes us out of our comfort zones because I believe what he said here in this passage, what happens is you meet him in a new way. I remember going to Africa and being there, and we did have flush toilets there, so that was cared for, but I just remember the great deal of uncomfortability there oftentimes was, and being in a culture that was so different than what I was used to. And I remember sitting, reflecting every morning in my devotions as we looked out at this little lagoon, a lagoon in Africa that, by the way, was filled with things like hippopotamuses and stuff like that. And I met Jesus in a way I hadn't met him before. And when you meet Jesus in a way that you met him before, according to this passage, you meet God in different ways as well. So I'd ask you to reflect upon, have you had those experiences? And if not, can you still do that? Can you still do that? Where you step out of comfort and you step into a little bit of discomfort, washing feet, and what would that look like? So there's this talk in this passage about greatness. And when we talk about greatness, God actually has a standard for greatness. And there's just a couple of standards that we're going to give today and just talk about those before we go to the table. And one is simply this: it's obedience to God's will. So the disciples and Jesus were now beginning their journey south, and they're on their way now to Jerusalem. And Jerusalem, of course, will be the final destination because that's where Jesus is going to be brutally murdered. And he's going to be murdered for us to pay the penalty of our sins. So Jesus has got a clear focus on the cross that he's going to, but along the way he continues to teach. And as we know in studying the Gospel of Mark, we know that everything goes very quickly, and so there's a lot of time that's going to be spent on Mark with that whole Passion Week, of which we're coming up to very shortly. And see, as Jesus taught on the way, the question is this for the disciples and for us: are you listening? Are you listening? See, everybody here right now, I think you're hearing my voice, but are you listening? Are you listening? And Jesus needs to know that we're listening. See, Jesus, he gives a passion prediction. Jesus would be betrayed, or as some translations say, handed over to the hands of men to be killed. And so when we see handed over and we see betrayed, who often can you think about in that? Who do you think is part of that handing over to Jesus? Judas comes to mind right away. But when you unpack this and you go right back to the original languages here, what you find out is Mark isn't talking about Judas at all. He's talking about God. It was God who handed Jesus over to be crucified. God, the Father, handed over his Son to be crucified so that he wouldn't have to kill you and me. And so right away that passion is communicated, and it causes you to jolt just a little bit. Oh, that was for me. He was handed over not by a man, but he was handed over by his Father to be killed. And then the question within this: are you listening to this? And do you understand what's going on here? Do you understand the magnitude of love that's being communicated here? See, the disciples at this point, they didn't really understand what was going on. They were listening, they were hearing, but they didn't quite understand it. As a matter of fact, for them, some wouldn't understand it really until after the resurrection, and some really didn't understand it until after the Holy Spirit was poured out in Acts chapter 2. But now we have the benefit of knowing all those things. Do you understand what's going on here? See, the road to greatness, Jesus says, is going to come when we obey God's will. Obey God's will. That's on the road to greatness. And then he talks about service to others. And basically, Jesus, throughout the Gospels, we hear over and over these types of themes when it comes to serving others. He talks about self-denial. Don't put yourselves first, put others first. Talks about dying to self. Talks about losing our lives for Christ's and the gospel. So lose your life and you will gain life. This is the theme that Jesus continues to talk about. Put others first. And then he also talks about overcoming the desires of pride. There's not a person in this room who doesn't struggle with pride. Okay? That's that basic struggle that we have that wants to put myself ahead in whatever way that is. Wanting to have my own way above the ways of others. Wanting to put my own needs first before others. Pride is something that we deal with all the time. What does Proverbs say? When arrogance comes, disgrace follows, but with humility comes wisdom. So the Bible keeps talking about humility in James 4:6, but he gives greater grace. Therefore he says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So what do we strive for? We strive for humility. And we need to overcome that desire for position. We definitely live in a me-first culture. Me first. I want to be in the front of the line. People drive crazy sometimes because they want to be in front of the car rather than behind the car. People act silly in a grocery store because they want to get in front of the line rather than being in the back of the line. Parking lots can be cucamonga once in a while as people strive for a parking place that's 6 feet in front of another one. Me first, me first. We've got to overcome the desire for position. See, you won't get lasting happiness, and we could term that as joy, by serving because you have to. I mean, think about it. You know, the person who, I owe, so off to work I go. You know, some people have that mentality about that. You know, some people have jobs that they love, some people don't have jobs that they love, but I'm pretty sure that so many people have jobs so that they can help serve their family and provide for their family. And so maybe that doesn't mean that you have to run and skip out the house every day, but there needs to be joy in what we have and what the Lord has given us to do. I have a friend that I've served with for years. We're obviously not in the same town now, but he would always say this, and he still says this. I talked to him on the phone a couple weeks ago. He says, remember, keep giving praise to God for what you get to do every day, for what you get to do, not for what you have to do, but what you get to do. And he's removed the have-tos from his lexicon, and he goes to just, we get to do this. That means the good things that we get to do, the kind of troublesome things or the mundane things, but we get to do things. And we can find a tremendous amount of joy in those things. And then, you know, Jesus continues to call us to overcome our desire for prominence, having a name for ourselves. You know, it's interesting, some people, when they give gifts to organizations, they'll open up that little book and say, oh, there's my name. I'm in that category. Or these wall of fames that they build for people that give money to those things. I mean, Jesus said, don't go for that. Don't go for those things. Don't get caught up in that stuff. Because you know what? When you get caught up in that stuff, that's your reward. That little plaque on the wall. But when you seek to do things the way I would have you do them, your reward's going to be greater in heaven for an eternity. And then Jesus talks about children at the end of this passage. It's very interesting that he moves to talking about children. And let me tell you a little bit about children. And I'm not doing this to make anybody feel guilty, because as I even say these and wrote these things down, these are just some facts about what's going on in poverty in the world. Children born into poverty are 2 times as likely to die before the age of 5. 57 million children throughout the world are not in primary school. That means they're not going to an elementary school. 57 million children throughout the world. Every day, almost 2,000 children die due to diseases related to unsafe water and basic sanitation. 100 million children under the age of 5 suffer from malnutrition, the underlying cause of more than 1/3 of childhood deaths. And every day, nearly 1,000 children are newly infected with the HIV virus. This is completely preventable. And then finally, malaria is 100% preventable and treatable, yet it is the 3rd largest killer of children globally. And dear people, I haven't even touched on the great tragedy of human trafficking and how that's affecting children worldwide. You know, sometimes when I read off these facts or I come across them when I'm reading a magazine or something, I just think, oh, it immediately makes me feel guilty, and I don't think the Lord is desiring ourselves to feel guilty, because I don't think guilt's something from God, but I believe that when we hear these things, it should convict us, and it should move us to, how can I change my lifestyle in any way to address some of these things? And so Jesus is talking about it way back then, 2,000 years ago, and the message applies to us today. See, when we get near the end of the passage that Denise read a little bit ago, he says two things right there at the end, one in verse 35 and one in verse 37. So there's verse 35, there's this bookend here, and verse 37, there's this bookend here. Mark does that a lot. Got a bookend, and then you ask, well, what's in the middle? Well, in the middle, he takes a human being who happens to be a child, and he actually kind of holds the human being up, and he uses them as an object lesson, okay? So let's see what the bookends say, and let's see where the child fits in. Well, in verse 35, he says this, if anyone wants to be first, he must be last and servant to all. Anyone wants to be first, he must be last and servant to all. Well, you heard what was said there, that Jesus asked them, what were you guys arguing about? You know, on the road, I heard you arguing. You think Jesus knew? And what does the Bible say? Well, they all got kind of silent because they were arguing about who was the greatest. And so they knew that this was probably not a discussion that they were too proud of, but they were arguing somehow, who's the greatest amongst us, you know? Who's the greatest? Who's number one? But when Jesus started addressing the issue of them arguing about who was the greatest, he didn't dismiss greatness. In other words, he didn't say, you know, you can't talk about greatness. Because actually there's something in us that pursues greatness and pursues significance. So Jesus isn't saying you can't talk about that. But what he does is he reframes it and he says, okay, let's talk about greatness. Let's talk about significance. Here's the way you need to do it. See, Jesus knew that their version, what they were arguing about, was distorted by sin. See, our culture, probably their culture as well, the question was, who's number one? See, everybody's lined up. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that's a big thing. One is the best, the greatest. You know, Hertz, they're number one. Avis is number 2, and that's never good enough, right? Number one, we want to be number one. Who is the richest? Who has the biggest car, the home, etc.? I mean, it's kind of something that we add up, you know. Sometimes we even say of people, oh, they're the ones that live in that big home over there, okay? And we assign greatness to that. And so think about how our mind works with those sorts of things. And so Jesus basically reframes this whole thing, and he says, you want to be great? Great! Great! Learn to be last. And you have to imagine the disciples must have done a big Scooby-Doo imitation. Huh? Right? You want to be great? Then you need to be last. What does that look like? Learn to be least. You want to move up? You have to go down. Basically, you need to descend into greatness. And that's the picture that Jesus is going to give. Because so oftentimes we're striving to be that number one. We're striving to be the biggest or the greatest or the most successful. And Jesus says, you want to become great, go down. You know, this affects pastors a lot. Pastors can get all caught up in this. You know, it's funny because Forbes magazine, I think, puts out the richest, you know, people in the world, and people will go through that and say, wow, 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 wow. You know, there's Outreach magazine that puts out the biggest churches in the United States, and pastors will look through that, or the fastest growing churches, because everybody wants to know who's number one, right? I love going to conferences to learn and to be inspired, and invariably at conferences, and I used to be intimidated by this, now it doesn't bother me anymore, I think it's kind of funny, but pastors will get together at breaks and around tables, you know, with people you don't know, and they'll talk about the 3 B's. You know what the 3 B's are. They're bodies, building, and budget. See, that's what they want to know. You know, so my name is this and your name is that, and then they'll say, so, how big is your church? And how many people are worshiping there? How big is your building, et cetera, and so on. And so right there, everything gets sized up. It's so silly. Because I've been around lunch tables, you know, one person say, yeah, we're averaging about 8,000 last year. And then another person says, well, we kind of have a small church. We're hoping to break 100 by next year. It's just interesting to watch the dynamic. Because one feels very prideful and the other one feels like a heel, and who's to say that that person in that 100-person church isn't doing a great work for Jesus Christ, right? Silliness that people can get caught up in. So, when Jesus says you must be a servant of all, he first says, you want to become great, you become the least, and you must become a servant of all. What does he do? He grabs a child, because the child is part of that all group. And he grabs the child and he just basically holds the child up. And you wonder, well, why a child? Why not just point to an adult there or something? Why a child? Well, Jesus, of course, is brilliant. I don't need to tell you that. But see, children don't give any political speeches. Children don't vote. And you know what's kind of cool about children, amongst a variety of other things? Children really don't care how great you are or how much money you got in your bank account or how big your house is. Children, they're just looking for love. And so Jesus holds them up, and he holds them up as an example, and he says, this is who you need to focus on if you want to become great. So in verse 37, he says this, welcome them. Welcome them. Matter of fact, when you welcome them, you welcome me. And by the way, when you welcome me, you welcome the one who sent me. So we want a great relationship with Abba Father. We welcome children. We welcome Jesus. We welcome him. The children, the least of these, are a direct connection to God. And that's why we serve. So why do we serve children? Why do we do that? Do we do it in the name of the child? No. No. Do we do it in the name of the church? No. You see, sometimes we can get caught up in that. Do we do that in the name of America because we're this greatest nation? No. What Jesus actually teaches here is we do it in the name of Jesus. And when we do it in the name of Jesus, what happens is we're going to discover Jesus in new ways. And we're going to discover our Abba Father in greater ways. This is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So actually, one of the greatest ways to increase our relationship with the Lord is by doing this type of service. Next week, we've got friends of ours that are going to come, and she's going to speak for a little bit. It's an organization that we're just starting a relationship with, kind of like the relationship that we're starting with the young lady that was here last year from Thailand, dealing with human trafficking. We have Michelle coming, and she's got a ministry in Uganda, and she's going to talk to us next week about opportunities that we can have because she has decided to dedicate her life to helping children in Uganda. And so, as a church, we need to avail ourselves to whatever opportunities can put us in a better relationship with our Abba Father. So when you get to put these two verses together, what we find out, if you want to be first, then you have to be last and a servant of all, especially children. You receive a child in my name, Jesus says, you receive God. He's basically saying to the disciples as he teaches this, stop trying to be a hero. And stop trying to chase the bubbles of human praise as if that's going to somehow give you some satisfaction. Stop trying to receive that praise in the service of others and start receiving God in the service to children. Stop looking for their approval. Look for me, and you're going to find me in the least of these. If you want the praise of others, it comes today and it's gone tomorrow. Or do you want God? And so we come to the table this morning, and I'd invite the elders and the servers, the prayers to all come forward at this time. But we come to the table this morning because when we look at the table and what God has done for us, what he looked down and he saw his people that he loved so much. And he loved them so much, and he knew that they could not pay the penalty for their sin. And so what he did is he provided a pathway for them. He provided a pathway through Jesus Christ dying on the cross for our sins. And then what he desires so much is that intimate relationship with us. And so Jesus taught about it today. You want a more intimate relationship with me? Serve the least of these. And you want a more intimate relationship with your Abba Father? Serve the least of these. And in the institution of this meal, we give thanks to God the Father, our Savior, Jesus Christ. And before he suffered, he gave up this memorial, this sacrifice. And he tells us to do this until he comes again. And at that last meal together, he took bread and he broke it and he said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And in the same way, he took the cup and he said, "This is the new covenant in my blood. Continue to do this in remembrance of me. For whenever we eat this bread and we drink this cup, we proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." And so what we get to do here is we get the privilege of remembering the awesome, extravagant love that the Lord has for us, and the extent that he went to saving us from our own destruction. And so we come to the table with grateful hearts. Let's pray together. Father in heaven, we're once again overwhelmed as we're reminded of exactly what you have done for us in handing your Son, your only begotten Son, over to be crucified, to pay the full penalty for our sins that we have committed. And we're grateful. We don't even know what to say. And before that was all done, the fact that Jesus would institute this meal at a time when even his disciples didn't understand everything that was going on. And now that we can be here today and we can still celebrate the cross. That old rugged cross where we find our salvation. A place where blood was spilled. A place of torment. A place where you cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And we thank you. So Lord, now as we come to the table and we come to receive a small piece of bread and a cup, may we remember the awesome love that you have for us. May we receive in these elements the strength that is ours through the power of the Holy Spirit that is present at this meal, and may we look forward with anticipation for what's to come. And until that day, may we continue to go out there and point people to the cross, so that they might know salvation as well. Thank you for Jesus, and thank you that Jesus has taught us to pray. Let us pray the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.